Welcome back, everyone, to another company interview on the Daily Gold podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. And with me today is Brad Langille of GoGold Resources, or GoGold Gold and Silver. Brad is the founder and CEO, has a very long and distinguished track record in Mexico. He's looking for GoGold to be his next success, and it's on a great path forward. Brad, first things first, let's talk about permitting in Mexico. Now, we know that Los Ricos South is going to start as an underground mine, and there is an option to make it mostly an underground mine with a small open pit component. But investors really want to know what is going on in Mexico with respect to permitting. And then secondly, is there anything you can share as to when you might get that permit?
Yes, I mean, that's the question everybody's asking, Jordan. Obviously, it's been in the news a lot, Mexico, and, the aversion to open pit mining. And really, our view on that, well, first of all, that proposed law has been struck down. That's very recent news. Now, it doesn't mean that with the new administration after the election, June 2nd, that might be back in the slate. But we always plan for any eventuality. And you're correct. We have looked at our deposit in Los Ricos South, and we're in the process of doing a definitive feasibility study. We anticipate to have that finished in August and be able to put a press release out on that. But the way we're mine planning is that the ore body can all be mined, or almost all of it, underground bulk mining right up to surface. And then at the very end of the mine plan, there'd be a small open pit, and we'd take out a halo that exists around the very top of the deposit. That would change the mine to a 14-year mine life. The other thing it would change is we'd build a slightly smaller mill from the start and a little more capital. But what we wouldn't have is our capital expansion of $70 million in year 3 to double the size of the mill when we're planning a bigger low-grade open pit. So we've made all the eventualities for that. We don't have the work finished yet, but I think what we're seeing so far. Yes, a 9-to-1 strip ratio open pit would be of a bit better NPV, but not that big of a difference, maybe 10 to 15%. But we'll have a much better internal rate of return because we'll be deploying less capital overall. Back to the question about permitting in Mexico. Again, there's an election on June 2nd. We believe any outcome in that election will be better than the current situation. And by that, I mean if the same party, Morena, wins with Claudia Sheinbaum, that we do believe, and we're not just us thinking this, we've talked to a lot of people, even people in the Morena party, who said that she is very open. She's open to business. She'll be potentially a lot maybe better to deal with than the current administration as far as our business. And so we look forward to Claudia Sheinbaum, or what even may be much better for the mining industry would be Xochitl Gálvez. She is the opposition candidate, and she has clearly stated that she's very pro-mining and very pro-business. Now, Claudia Sheinbaum has also stated that she's pro-business as well. But Xochitl Gálvez is pro-mining, pro-business. And some of the polls we're looking at right now, it have them neck and neck. So June 2nd will be very, very important date. And I'd say the outcomes are going to be Xochitl Gálvez wins. Literally the next day, our feeling is all the Mexican companies in mining are going to benefit in, get rid of that discount that we all have because of what's been going on, a Mexico discount. If Claudia Sheinbaum wins, we still think that's a better outcome than the current administration. And she'll take over power on the 1st of September. Now, on our permit, it's an underground permit. We're well down the road, and we hope, we feel, and we think it's reasonable that we expect to have a permit by the end of this summer. So that's our outlook currently for the permit for underground.
It's interesting because if you look at, I mean, your stock, as well as even companies that are seeking open pit permits, those stocks have been performing really well in the last month or so. And obviously, we know the markets, we're in a new bull market. The metals prices are going up, so that helps. But
Yeah.
I mean, am I reading too much into the price action of these Mexican stocks, yours included? I mean, could we just be in a situation where all the risk in Mexico has been almost fully discounted up until the election?
I think that all of us who've been in Mexico for a while, and I've been there going on into my 28th year, building mines in Mexico. All of us, and the nationals, companies in the mining industry, we all feel that the election will bring better conditions for mining in Mexico. So I think a little bit of that is coming into the market. But obviously, the commodity price is having a big influence on the market right now. I mean, gold and silver are alive again, and there's an interest, and we're seeing some benefit. We're trading, I believe, and we've done a little bit of work in this, looking at some of the analysts who cover us. We're probably trading around a 0.3 times NAV, and a development company, with the equity we have and the potential to get the debt financing easily, would probably be trading more around a 0.6 times NAV. There's a discount, that's for sure, and it's because of all the noise in Mexico. And I would emphasize the word noise. I think the reality is not nearly as bad as the noise that's out there. So underground permit is how we mitigate it for the time being. We won't need an open pit permit for a long time. And I do personally believe that there will be open pit permits in Mexico. Companies like Nico Eagle, they have a large open pit project in their San Nicolas that they're trying to advance. 60% of the mining industry in Mexico is open pit. It may become more difficult to get open pit, but I don't personally feel that open pits will be disallowed in Mexico. So
does the fact that metals prices are going up and we're in a new bull market, in my own words, does that increase the chances that Mexico will be more lenient on permitting, or does it not really have an impact?
Well, I think probably yes. I mean, it's that can be a big economic impact. If you're talking Claudia Sheinbaum and her kind of political, or her ideology is green transition is one of the things. So we need copper, we need silver for that green transition. So that's even in the lithium industry, I don't really believe there's much lithium in Mexico, but and the government is playing a big role in lithium now, but that's open pit, in up in Sonora, that would be open pit. So you need those metals. Those are critical metals. And again, just don't rule out the fact that this election, in our opinion, the polls we follow, may be a little closer than everybody thinks. You look at the election just happened down in Panama, and in that election, that was an upset. That was not expected. Don't rule out you might see that happen in Mexico. We're following a few polls that are indicating that, and they're pretty large polls, and they're ones that they were correct in Panama. Their view in Panama is correct, and they have a different view in Mexico than a lot of the polls. So, but anyway, Claudia Sheinbaum, green transition, she needs those metals. It's a lot of economic impact to the country, especially with, like, as you mentioned, these rising gold prices and silver prices.
I guess I don't mean to, I'm sorry to belabor the point, but one more on permitting. So is it, so a new administration comes in, then are they more likely to give out permits earlier in their administration? Or, I mean, if you know, if the Claudia got in and she was being a hard ass on mining for a little while, would that, I mean, would, like, right out of the gate, would she want to be that way? Or, I mean, I don't know if I'm doing a good job of mentioning the question, just because there's so much risk leading up to the election, you know, where we've seen no permits recently. And then, I mean, then is there just like a breathing point where things can get moving again, regardless of who gets in?
I think the election is June 2nd. The transition is September 1st. Typically in Mexico in the past, I am told that all the tops of every department change. They change. A new administration comes in with the new president. There may be a period where the old administration kind of cleans up files, you know, in that gap between June 2nd and September 1st. Sometimes, you know, that happens. But I just think back to the underground mines, nobody, including the current administration, is saying that they have a problem with underground mines. So that's one point as far as GoGold is concerned. The law about outlawing open pit mines has been struck down. It didn't pass. In this administration, it did not pass. The new administration comes in September. I don't know if they'll retable that law again or if they'll go with something, in my opinion, much more sensible. Okay. If it's Claudia Sheinbaum, I mean, you know, she is a well-educated PhD, US, I believe it's Berkeley, where she's educated. She's a very intelligent woman. She has stated in Q&As that she needs foreign investment for the economy of Mexico. It's very important to her, and the green transition is very important to her. So I think on those 2 points, she will be much more favorable to mining than the past administration. And listen, we're suffering a big discount because of political rhetoric leading up to this election. That's going to settle down, in my opinion. And again, I just throw in there's the wild card. Xochitl Gálvez has made it very, very clear that she's pro-mining. So just on June 3rd, if you wake up and they say, oh, you know what happened in Panama happened in Mexico, I think it's a foregone conclusion that things are going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah. Well, I hope for your sake and all our sakes that that happens.
Yep.
So Brad, you don't have to answer these questions, which I'm sure you're sick of getting at this point about permitting. I apologize that we had to you know, ask 2 or 3 questions about that. Now let's get to more interesting stuff. So let's presume, I mean, either. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Just if we can and make it very, very clear that I think you asked how long before things will get straightened out for whoever wins. We're asking for an open pit permit. The way we're planning the mine right now, we don't need an underground permit. We don't open pit for a decade. So just to make that clear. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Joe.
Okay, very good. No worries. Thank you for that. All right, let's talk about things that are more interesting. Okay, so Los Ricos South, you know, the underground, it's easier to permit. We know that. You'll get the permit at the end of summer, you know, maybe in the fall. So after that, at what point will you start construction? Or, I mean, how soon can you start construction after you get the permit? And then what's the timeline of the build?
Yeah, or
the timeline from the build to production, I should say. Sorry.
Yes. It's an 18-month build, Los Ricos South. And as far as with a permit in hand, we're on schedule right now to have a press release out on the feasibility study in August. We're well advanced with all our discussions with debt providers, and of course we have a lot of equity. I mean, we theoretically can even stop building before we ink the final choice on what we choose for our debt provider. We could start earthworks and things like that. In my opinion, of course, we will make an official construction decision, and we'll put that out into our shareholders in a press release. But in my opinion, I can't see anything that will be stopping us from just, once we have that permit in hand, breaking ground and away we go. We have the engineering done. We have agreement with the local Ejido for surface rights to build. We have power agreement with the power utility. We have water with the local Ejido. We're going to increase a little bit the size of their dam. That's our water source. So we have all the elements in place to just get going. The number one thing is that permit. Just have permit in hand, we go.
And I know this is dependent on the feasibility study, which you're working on. I mean, you're towards the end stages of that. It's how many ounces a year could Los Ricos South produce?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you the ounces a year that are in the PEA. I mean, that's published, and they average about 8 million ounces a year, and all in cost just over $9. And I believe and a bit more ounces in the early years. The Eagle is the biggest, highest grade portion of the deposit. The mill size will be a little bit bigger. It'll be 2,000 tons a day instead of 1,750. That's in the PEA. So that's a few more tons, and they're going to be high grade tons going through the mill. So 8 million plus ounces. And
so with Peral, that takes you then to about 10 million ounces a year.
Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
And so how many other companies are out there producing, at least silver specific companies are producing 10 million ounces a year?
I would believe that would be right around where a Silvercrest is. And I would be a bit less than that, but I think they're working their way up towards the 10 million. So I think those are, reasonable comps for us for Los Ricos South. I think that a Los Ricos South gets us pretty close to looking like a Silvercrest or an Aya. And of course, they're benefiting from a much higher market cap than we are right now.
Right. Okay, let's talk about Los Ricos North, because this company isn't just a one-trick pony with the one project. So Los Ricos North, what is your plan there? I mean, is that kind of on hold right now?
It is a bit, but in Los Ricos North, and I mentioned that we have some great options for debt financing, and with those options, myself and the team and our CFO, we look at cost of capital, but also what we're considering there is flexibility as well, because we think from a very high level, the progression in the district should be, get that permit, engineer and finish for Los Ricos South, build Los Ricos South, 18 months to get in production cash flow. But at the same time, if we say circled in our facility 10 million US or something like that, and we have that money to do infill drilling in the north, to do engineering in the north, and get the north to a definitive feasibility study by the time we go into production in Los Ricos South, and start working on permits and things like that, then maybe Los Ricos South will be only a commence construction potentially, a year after we're in production in Los Ricos South. Sorry, I may have said Los Ricos North, maybe a year after when we're in production in Los Ricos South. So wouldn't that be great? We have a district where we have a pipeline to get to production based on the two studies we have now of 15 to 17 million ounces a year. And, for comparables, not in total reserves, but that's about, comparable to a Hecla in production. And I think they're all in costs around $12. And in those two studies, we'd be talking about all in costs under $10. So that would be great. I mean, a company like a Hecla in this market's enjoying, a market cap of, I think, around 4.5 billion Canadian. So, that's a very good model to work to get to their level of production for increase in value of the company. And I think that should be the overall plan. Production Los Ricos South, ready to build Los Ricos North, build Los Ricos North, be one of the major players production-wise in the silver space and high quality ounces under that $10 all-in sustaining cost. And then from there, Jordan, there's exploration as well. We never stopped exploring because we couldn't find anything. We stopped exploring because we drilled 250,000 meters over 5 years. Every 2 weeks, we'd have results from exploration. And our market said to us, tell us what it all means. What's the roadmap to becoming a producer and cash flowing? And that's what we did. But there will be a time, I believe, where we'll be back to district-wide exploration again when Los Ricos South North is in construction and production. And I will just mention one thing, very near-term exploration, and then it would be back in Los Ricos South, because we know there's another horizon below what is planned today and what's in our resources and what potentially will be reserves. We know deeper down in Los Ricos South, from past history of past operator from 1927 to 1929, they had found another high-grade horizon where we have in our archives 1,000 samples they took, and they were mining from there, and they wanted to continue to mine from there, but unfortunately there's a revolution in 1929 in Mexico, and they left. So we know that's down there below what we're planning as a mine today. It would be 850 meters down, a little too deep for us to spend the money on drilling from surface when we know we're going to be going underground, and we'd save a lot of money. So when we're underground in Los Ricos South, building Los Ricos South, we'll probably circle some money there for doing some exploration drilling on that additional horizon that we know is down there, and define that. And that'll just be more high-grade ounces going in that mill in the future in that mine plan at Los Ricos South. So that's the exploration that's very near to infrastructure. That's high probability because we have a lot of samples from it from our archive of past producer down there.
Okay, I want to come back to the north, but first I know we have a visual, so let's see if we can pull up the visual of what you're talking about with respect to the exploration potential at Los Ricos South. Okay, Brad, so you are now sharing your screen where we can visually see what you are talking about with respect to the potential of Los Ricos South.
Right, yeah, this is Los Ricos South. You're looking down from surface here. Now we're going underground, and this is the mine as we were developing it, with all the stopes that will mine over these 14 years in Los Ricos South, producing those 8+ million ounces a year at under $10 all-in sustaining costs. So now in the history of this, the previous miners were there from 1908 to 1929, and they focused on this area up here. And they had very high-grade ore, and they had a very successful mine. And this area here, they did some mining there, but it was lower grade. And in 1927 to 1929, they got down to this area and just started mining there in 1927, 1929. And they were seeing some of the highest grades in the mine, 850 meters down. So we've only drilled up here, all up here. And this is the Eagle, and we drilled that all at about the same elevation, about 1,050 meters above sea level. So this is all drilled. This is all part of our resources. With a definitive study will become reserves. But this down here we haven't drilled because it would be about $200,000 a drill hole from surface to do that. We're going to wait until we're underground, which will be over the next couple of years, and then we'll develop underground drill stations, and we're going to drill this out. But we already have from archives from that old producer 1,000 samples down there that show extremely high grades, and they reported that they were mining some of the highest grades in the history of their mine life, and they left in 1929 because there's a revolution in Mexico. So we know this. Well, these are high probability new resources, and we think that they may follow as they do in the horizon above, where those just carried right over into the Eagle at those very high grades. And this has very, very good potential when we get down there to start drilling. So that's that's the nearest infrastructure, best, probability that there could be something there, because we have old samples. We want to get to that. That'll be some exploration. That'll be more near term once we're building this, and we'll have put some money aside to do that drilling. So that should be exciting, because that'll just mean more and more high grade tons going to that mill that we're going to build. Improving the value of Los Ricos South. But back to Los Ricos North. I mean, Los Ricos North, again, our plan again is to get to production, to get definitive engineering done, while we're building Los Ricos South, to have a budget for that, and to be up there producing. But also there's a tremendous exploration potential up there. Like I mentioned, we didn't stop because we weren't finding. We drilled for 5 years, 250,000 meters. We're hitting every 2 weeks. We're putting out great drill results. It's just our market wanted to know how we progress this to a producer, and a very significant producer of silver and gold. And that's one thing I will mention as well. We're GoGold, silver and gold. What's in the name? GoGold's probably not the best name for a silver producer, but it is what we had, and it was well known, the name. So we're about 60% silver by value, more than gold.
Just one last thing on Los Ricos North, Brad. So permitting, so that can also be an underground operation.
Good point. And that's in our engineering, as we've done in Los Ricos South. And we can, we're going to know a lot more about the lay of the land as far as the feeling on open pit permits by the time we're working up there. And, first thing we're going to do is infill drill to tighten up the drilling up there. And then we'll be working on the engineering, and we'll have a better idea of what the climate is towards open pit. But it's the same thing as the South. They're the same structures. They're wide vein type structures with good grade that we feel can be bulk mined underground. It's the same as Los Ricos South. So there's a high probability we'll plan a lot of it as an underground bulk mine, and with no open pitting or some smaller open pitting in the future.
Okay, Brad. So wrapping things up. So the election is obviously a driver. Then your feasibility study is coming for Los Ricos South, permit, hopefully, somewhere around that time in the summer, maybe end of the summer. Anything else you want to add or mention that we didn't cover today?
No, I think just that we have a strong balance sheet, where a lot of debt providers are wanting our business. And you can see from the market, we're a very, very liquid stock, performing well, even with the overhang of the noise around the permit. June 2nd for us, I'll sum it up in saying one thing. June 2nd for us is an important date, no matter which party wins. We do believe Claudia Sheinbaum will have a more friendly mining friendly administration than the current administration. And if the opposition party wins, they've already made it very clear that they're very pro-mining and pro-business. So we'll wait for June 2nd, but whatever the outcome will be, we see it as a better situation than current. Okay, great. Brad, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, as my audience does as well. Very exciting story with, in my words, huge potential over the coming months and years. And hopefully we could do this again later in the year, see how things are progressing. You bet. Thanks for your time today, Jordan.